Read Introducing Australia by Anita Ganeri.
Famous places. There are many famous places in Australia. Some are modern. The Sydney Opera House opened in 1973. It has become one of the most famous buildings in the world. Its roof looks like a ship's sails. The Sydney Opera House stands in Sydney Harbour. Some famous places are very old. Uluru is a giant hill of red rock in central Australia. It is a sacred place for the Aboriginal people. It has many caves and ancient rock paintings. Uluru stands 1,100 feet, or 335 meters high. It used to be called Ayers Rock. Geography. Huge dry deserts cover large parts of western and central Australia. The biggest is the Great Victoria Desert. It is famous for its red sand dunes. The Great Victoria Desert has sand dunes, pebbly plains, and salt lakes. A long line of mountains run down the eastern side of Australia. It is called the Great Dividing Range. To the south is the highest mountain in Australia, Mount Kosciuszko. It is 7,310 feet, or 2,228 meters tall. Mount Kosciuszko is in the Snowy Mountains in southeast Australia. The Murray and Darling rivers join up to make the Murray-Darling River. It is the longest river in Australia. It flows for 2,376 miles, or 3,824 kilometers, from the Great Dividing Range into the ocean. The land around the Murray-Darling River is good for farming. Lake Erie is the biggest lake in Australia. It is filled with salt water, but often dries out in the heat. The lake has only been full of water 3 times in the last 100 years. Lake Erie looks almost empty here. It fills up again after heavy rains. Weather. Most of Australia has hot, dry weather. When it is very dry, there is a risk of bushfires breaking out. The far north and northeast have warm weather with lots of rain. Bushfires spread very quickly if the ground is dry. Australia is in the southern hemisphere. It has opposite seasons to the northern hemisphere. Winter lasts from June to August. Summer lasts from December to February. In Australia, Christmas is in the summertime. Some Australians spend Christmas on the beach. Animals. Australia's most famous animals are marsupials, such as koalas and kangaroos. These are animals that carry their babies in pouches. Many unusual birds also live in Australia, such as kookaburras and emus. A kangaroo carries its baby or joey in its pouch. The Great Barrier Reef stretches along the northeast coast of Australia. It is the biggest coral reef on Earth. It is home to an astonishing number of animals. They include around 1,500 types of fish. Thousands of multicolored fish swim on the Great Barrier Reef. Plants. Many unusual plants grow in Australia. Eucalyptus trees, sometimes called gum trees, grow all over the continent. Their leaves make a strong smelling oil. Eucalyptus leaves are the favorite food of koalas. Koalas eat so many eucalyptus leaves that they smell of eucalyptus. The Sturt's desert pea is a plant that grows in the desert. It has bunches of bright red and black flowers. Its seeds lie in the hot ground. They grow very quickly as soon as it rains. The seeds of the Sturt's desert pea can sprout very quickly after a shower of rain. People. About 22 million people live in Australia. Most people are descended from Europeans who settled in Australia. Other people have come from Asian countries, such as China and Vietnam. These Australian school children come from many different backgrounds. The Aboriginals were the first people to live in Australia. They came from Southeast Asia around 40,000 years ago. They used to move from place to place, but now many live in cities and towns. These Aboriginal children are dressed in traditional costumes for a dance. Natural resources. Australia has many natural resources. About 2/3 of the land is used for farming. In the dry outback, farmers keep sheep on enormous farms. The sheep are mainly kept for their wool. These merino sheep are raised for their soft, fine wool. Many metals, such as gold and iron ore, are mined in Australia. There are also huge diamond mines. Most of the world's opals come from Australia. The continent is also rich in oil, gas, and coal. This digger is working on an opal mine in Australia. Sports and culture. Sports are very popular in Australia. Many Australians play or watch cricket, rugby, and Australian rules football. Australian rules football is played on an oval shaped field. It is like a cross between rugby and soccer. These men are playing Australian rules football in Melbourne. The Aboriginal people have their own art and music that is thousands of years old. They paint pictures using dots of different colors. The paintings usually show animals or pictures from Aboriginal stories. This Aboriginal artist is creating a dot painting. Cities and countryside. There are many big modern cities in Australia. Canberra is the capital of Australia. It is home to the Australian Parliament. Sydney is the biggest city. It is famous for its harbor and harbor bridge. The famous harbor bridge in Sydney is made from steel. People in the outback often live far away from cities and towns. If people get sick or have an accident, a flying doctor goes out to visit them in a plane. Some children living in the outback have to do their schoolwork by radio or on the computer. A flying doctor arrives at the scene of a car accident. Countries. There is just one country in the continent of Australia, and that is Australia. Australia is divided into 6 states and 2 territories. The largest Australian state is Western Australia. This map shows the states and territories of Australia. Australia is part of a much bigger region called Oceania. Oceania also includes New Zealand, Papua New Guinea, and thousands of islands in the South Pacific Ocean. This is one of the islands that make up Fiji in the South Pacific Ocean.